a quorum, just barely.
Yeah. Barely.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask Vicki if she'll please call roll.
Lauren's on.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Rowley,
Here.
Mr. Pomeroy,
Here.
Mr. Mondragon,
Here.
Dr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. DeMaio,
Here.
and Commissioner Spear.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We'll move down to the approval of the minutes of January the 11th, 2022. If you had a chance to look those over,
Mr. Chairman,
Hold
thank you, Vicki, for sending those out early. We appreciate that. I went through it and I move for approval.
okay? We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same with those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to update regarding Water Conservation Month with Mrs. Knight.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, committee members. As you know, every April is Water Conservation Month, and the city of Clovis is doing many things this year to try to get the word out, encourage the community to conserve water, and then also showcase all of the great things that the city of Clovis is doing. One of the ways that we've done that thus far is we've issued a press release out to the media and also presented proclamations at a proclamation at the city commission meeting. This week, I believe, there will be a proclamation at the county commission meeting. We've also organized radio ads with some of the students from iAcademy who were really fun in recording those for us. And so those are on both Rooney Moon and Zia Broadcasting, and will run all throughout the month of April. We've also advertised with the Chamber of Commerce on the Monday memo regarding water conservation. We had a booth at the Home and Garden Show and had a table set up with a whole bunch of giveaways for water conservation, so that was fun. We also have booths set up at City Hall and the library for, that also has those same materials. Giveaways, we ordered stress balls, rain gauges, little rubber duckies this year, really fun. We are also advertising Water Conservation Month on our website, cityofclovis.org, and then also are posting various things throughout this month on our Facebook page. So hopefully those efforts will get the word out, encourage people to conserve water in our community, showcase some of the things that the city of Clovis is doing regarding the watering schedule, the effluent reuse project, those kinds of things. This year, this is something new. We are also participating in the 2022 Wyland Mayor's Challenge, and this is a challenge for communities across the country where the public can sign a pledge to conserve water, and the communities that receive the most pledges per population can receive some awesome prizes for residents. I think a vehicle for a charity of their choosing. And so residents can go to mywaterpledge.com and sign that pledge, and then that can help us win some cool prizes. So I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Kelsey, are the restaurants participating this year with the tents that they usually, I think we usually provide tents for the restaurants, or are they participating this year? Do you know?
Not this year. We don't have that many tents left over, and we also found that they weren't too popular, so we focused our efforts in other places.
Yeah.
I think we do still have some tents available for those that might want to utilize that. Commissioner Spear.
Yeah, the county's already had the proclamation at the last meeting.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, yeah, and we have been focusing on water conservation, and this has to become now a way of life. It's not just during the month of April that it's Water Conservation Month, but we have to focus our efforts on continuing to secure water and to make sure we conserve water from now on. It just has to be something we continue to do forever. So, any other things? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to updates. I don't see Mark here yet. We'll give him a few minutes. We'll move on to the city update with Mr. Howald.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mark is actually, I just reached out to him. He's on his way over. He still had the date for tomorrow on his calendar, so he's on his way.
Okay.
We're wrapping up phase 2 of the effluent reuse project. We've actually got the transmission line installed all the way out to the golf course at this point, and so we are actually flowing water as of last week to our golf course, which is a huge accomplishment for the city. I remember starting on this project back in when I first came on board with the city of Clovis in 2009, still wrapping up the preliminary engineering report, and that being the last end user actually on the entire, or at least the last major portion of the transmission line and getting to that end user. So it's a huge accomplishment for us in this project. In regards to phase 2, there are still some minor things that they're wrapping up. They're still has some end user apparatus that they need to install at Berry Elementary, and of course coming back and putting on some valve covers and doing some minor paving items. We're looking to do the substantial completion walkthrough on this project on April the 22nd, and then from that point forward, the contractor has another 30 days to wrap up any punch list items that are noted during the walkthrough itself. Once this portion of the project is finished, like I said, we are done with all the major transmission lines for the project. We have had different bid alternates over the years that we weren't able to award based off funding, and so we still need to get distribution lines out to the Clovis High School, and then eventually feeding down to Freshman Academy and Cameo Elementary, and then over to Dennis Chavez Park, as well as to Sandia Elementary. So while we're wrapping up the major portion of it, from a funding standpoint, we've spent close to probably over $16 million so far, and so we really only have a minor amount as far as funding goes that's left to complete. Probably used to be around $1.5 million, so now it's probably around $3 million left of construction work to actually finalize what the original vision of the reuse project was itself. In terms of delivery, we delivered 5.6 million gallons last month in March throughout the system itself to the various end users. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions?
He answered it. I was going to ask that question, so thank you.
I anticipated.
No questions, so I guess you did a good job. Got everything answered. Okay, we'll move on to Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority update with Mr. Ortega, which is the Executive Director of the Authority. Welcome to the meeting.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee. I did send over a presentation. Oh, there we go. So I could give you an update on our work. So if we move on to the next slide, there we go. This slide here demonstrates all of the projects that are underway right now in fiscal year 22, and we have a lot of work going on. With that, we move on to the next slide. So some of the projects that we're working on include Finnish Water 3, construction 17.2 miles of 20-inch diameter water transmission pipeline connecting Finnish Water 2 to Portales. This project is under construction right now, and it's in two phases. One called Finnish Water 3A, and the second piece, which is a little over 4 miles, 5.7 miles, will be Finnish Water 3B. This first phase is scheduled to be completed by July 6th, and we should start on the second phase of that shortly after that. The next project on the list here is Finnish Water 1. We're 100% complete with design there. This is 16 miles north of connecting from Finnish Water 2, which is about a half mile north of 6084 on Curry Road R. That pipeline is, like I said, the design is 100% complete, and we plan to go out to bid here in about 30 to 60 days and hopefully start construction by end of summer with that project. The next one on the list is Raw Water 3, which is currently being designed at to the 90% level, and that is actually starts on the other, just north of the proposed water treatment plant and goes all the way to the edge of the cap rock. That includes 26 miles of 42 to 48 inch diameter pipe, and we're making pretty good progress with that as we speak. The next one on the list is Texico Lateral, and we've completed the study on the best alternative for the lateral for Texico, and at this point we're working with EPCOR to sign some agreements that will allow us to use their system, which would save us millions of dollars, and not only through two agreements. One is to provide Texico some as available water in the interim until water starts to flow in our system, and then the second part of that agreement would be the wheeling part, whereas we bring water in from one end from upstream, and they deliver it to Texico on the downstream. So we're making good progress with that. As soon as we get that wrapped up, then we have the green light to move forward with design and construction of that pipeline. We're looking at a little over 4 miles on that, thanks to the city of Clovis that actually stepped forward and is working towards constructing a portion of that pipeline up to the regional airport, which really made it attractive for us and in trying to work with both the city of Clovis and EPCOR with this lateral. Next slide, please. Raw Water 2, which is the pipeline that goes down or up the cap rock, and this is a 3-mile section of 42-inch diameter pipe, which we are currently working on setting the alignment and working on right of entry activity. Again, Raw Water 1 on the next bullet point there, which is the last segment to the reservoir, which is a 28-mile section of pipeline from the intake facility connecting to Raw Water 2. We are again working on solidifying the alignment on that and working on right of entry there. And then last but not least is the Elida lateral and pump station. We've begun the planning process on that, and right of way is currently taking place. This is a 30-mile pipeline, 4 to 6 inches in diameter. Next slide. A few pictures of our current construction right now. This is the pipeline from connecting from Finnish Water 2, which is northwest of 6084, right at the corner of Chavez Housing, on the northwest corner of actually the southwest corner of Chavez Housing. And so this is a few photos of construction of that. Pipeline to Portales is a 20-inch PVC and ductile iron. Next slide. As you can see, the trench there and bedding material that surrounds the pipe, both underneath and the sides and above it. Next slide. Showing a little bit of the clearing and grubbing that occurs before the trenching of the pipeline. This slide here just describes a little bit about what's happening with the authority and the Eastern New Mexico Rural Water System at this point. As some of you may know, that the infrastructure bill that Congress had been working on did pass and was signed on November 15th by the President to allow for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. In that bill, or in that act, the infrastructure bill earmarked $1 billion towards completing the authorized rural water projects, of which we are a part of. So that has given us opportunity to move forward with this pipeline a little quicker and to get it completed sooner than planned. Legislative session for this year was also very successful. Next slide. show a little bit of the funding that we have available just in fiscal year '22 to work on these projects. So again, the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding and the fiscal year '22 federal appropriations combined for a total of $177,400,000. This year, with the legislative session, we were very fortunate to have received $30 million from both the governor and our legislative capital outlay through our efforts with our legislative representatives. Fiscal '22 match from the authority for that money will be an additional $20,740,000 for a total of $228,140,000. Again, that's just for fiscal year 2022. The passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the $1 billion that was earmarked for the rural water projects is going to be distributed over the course of 5 years. So we'll see fiscal year '22, which is occurring now, fiscal year '23 beginning in October. So we're already geared up and working towards preparing for a request for fiscal year 2023. Next slide will give you kind of an idea of our schedule here. We have a 5-year construction and schedule that matches up with the federal 5-year plan in distributing those funds from the infrastructure bill. And you know, our goal and hope is that all goes as planned, and this project can move forward quickly through this 5-year schedule. Not to say that we can construct this project physically in 5 years. If we are able to start as planned this year with this larger funding, we estimate that this project can be completed in 6 to 8 years physically. Next slide. That's my update to you, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Good presentation. Questions?
Yes, Orlando, thank you for that presentation and appreciate the work that you are doing. I guess with that appropriation under the Infrastructure Investment Act, I guess we're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, I hope, for the future of our children and our grandchildren. And we appreciate the work that you've done, and Justin, that you've done in the past as well before becoming city manager. And it's important that we all work as a partnership, and we have been working as a partnership. I wanted to also state that I was glad to also hear the progress too with Texico, because boy, they really need some help there. We did a source water protection plan. I said we, Eastern Plains Council of Governments, did a source water protection plan, and we tested their wells there also, and they certainly are in need. The other issues, we recently made a trip, and when I say we, it's EPCOG, Sandy Chansey, Vincent Soul, and myself to Washington, D.C., and we met with Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez, and she mentioned the U-Water pipeline project, and we discussed that a little bit, along with some other projects in eastern New Mexico, all the way to Clayton that we're engaged with. And certainly we're lucky because the congressional delegation of New Mexico certainly we have their support, as you all know, because you guys have take trips there and work that more than we do. But we had that opportunity, and we took that opportunity to discuss the U-Water pipeline project, of course, along with Cannon Air Force Base and others, of them receiving part of that water project as well. That's real important. So just wanted to say that I appreciate the work that you guys are doing on that, and appreciate the report. And if possible, if you could email me, I would love to have a copy of that for my water file.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I've got one.
Okay.
Just for clarification, Orlando, you mentioned completion in 6 to 8 years.
Yes, sir.
And what was that for, 6 to 8 years? Total completion?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
And one more thing, if I may. We are planning Economic Development Week. In fact, the planning committee will meet tomorrow via virtual, and I have extended an invitation to the governor. We have been contacted by her staff, and working with the schedulers, we're looking at May the 12th of her being here, and she's going to want to talk about the appropriations that she made to Eastern New Mexico. So you will be invited and your board to that luncheon,
Be glad to.
okay? It's proposed right now, so right now it's tentative until we get the final okay.
Okay, glad to.
Dr. Smith, Commissioner Rowley, any questions?
I had a quick question.
Okay.
What is the status of the updated cost estimate of this that the engineers are doing?
Yes, you know, we have just completed an updated cost on the project, and let me see if I have the numbers here. Actually, I do. Excuse me.
Mayor Pro Tem, while Mr. Ortega is looking for those numbers, I mean, the extension out to the airport is an example of how we've tried to leverage every program that's out there. We actually recognized, our regional airport is doing fantastic, and the economic opportunity that's out there from a potential, just trying to serve it, as well as from a potential industrial park located out there. And so that's where we got in contact with the State Economic Development Department, and were able to successfully receive a grant, and partnering with EPCOR on that project to actually get that portion of water extended out to the airport itself. And then obviously it gave the authority the opportunity to potentially tie onto it and then continue to the east, which shortened their project limits.
What was the amount of that grant? Do you remember?
Around $2.5, $3 million.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great project.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, absolutely, I can say that, as I mentioned, by utilizing that infrastructure with the city of Clovis and EPCOR, we will be able to save millions of dollars on the Texico Lateral, and also operation and maintenance as time goes forward into the operation of the system. But going back to the updated estimate, and this is still under review in draft form, but we did commission this project to be the project cost to be updated because in the past what has occurred is they do an inflation index year after year, and they add that inflation index to it to the cost that was done. I believe about 6 or 7 years ago, and we really wanted to get a firm number on that to make sure that the funding would be there available for us as far as the 75% federal match, and also the 15% from the state pledge and 10% from the local communities. The remaining project total under this new updated estimate is $814,608,000. 75% portion from the federal share would be $610 million rounded, and then the 15% state share would be about $120 million, and then the authority share or the member share would be around $80 million.
So in total,
The total would be $814 million.
oh, that includes all the other shares?
Actually, say that again?
That includes all the shares from the other people combined?
Yes.
And is that separate from the 277 million that's up here?
No,
That's included in that?
that is part of this, yes.
So it actually jumped about 300 million from the original proposal,
It has, and it's,
or
you
cost
know,
analysis.
due to, and these are good numbers or solid numbers because what we did is we go out and actually get costs.
Right.
We get costs of pipe, we get cost of materials, we get, costs of labor and so forth. So these are pretty solid numbers.
Solid numbers for today? They're
For
not gonna
today, yes.
guarantee these numbers at any time?
Absolutely.
'Cause
You know,
every
it's-
time I get a bid on something, they tell me I've got about 2 hours to take it.
That's what we're getting to.
So over a 6-year period, this thing could be in excess of $1 billion.
It could be.
And what percent water does it supply to the city in total when it's completed? What percent of the water authority's water will?
I don't have that number with me, but I can certainly get it. I think Justin probably
In the
knows.
past, didn't you mentioned 10%? Does that sound right?
No.
It was originally designed to supply, it could 100% of our water needs.
And it probably will supply more than 100%.
Right.
Now, especially with the conservation that's taking place and the water reuse and everything else that has occurred.
So, of course, the Water Utility Authority obviously has a plan in place, operations plans. There's inevitably going to be drought years. We all recognize that. And so that's where the conversations are, that it takes a portfolio of water. So making sure that not only do we have the availability from the surface water supply, but also making sure we're being good stewards of our groundwater supply. That way, in those drought years where the reservoir can't supply 100% of the water, you do have your groundwater to where you can start switching those back and forth.
Right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think everybody's going to face that same
Absolutely.
challenge going forward.
Yes, every water resource will be used and managed, and as was mentioned, this is for life, and we have to be good stewards of water in every way possible.
It's 15,000 acre feet, is that right?
16,415 acre feet.
Okay, anything else? Okay, Mr. Ortega, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. Okay, we'll move back up to EPCORS with Mark Horta. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize for,
All right.
I forgot to change, move over to Monday, so, but glad I was able to make it. So, just a quick update on where we're at. Currently right now, we're gearing up for our pumping season. So all of the wells that we had rested and our lease wells that have been set dormant over the winter months are all getting prepped and ready to be turned on as needed as we start to move into spring and our higher water usage months. So we've been working on that. We've already started to see the average daily use go up above 5 million gallons a day. So in the winter months, it hovers somewhere between 4 and 4.5. So, we track that, and as we start to see that, it kind of helps us gear, how fast we need to get prepped for it. So that's currently where we're at. And then in regards to projects and things that we've got on our radar, things that we're working on is, of course, the line out to the airport. So we've got that in being designed right now, ready to be able to go out to bid. And start construction this year. We also have some work that we had previously started that we're needing to finish up, which is on our Sandia line to reroute the wells that go to our Sandia high tank. We ran a pipeline to reroute them to our North 40 pump station, which is the one by Green Acres Lake. This will allow us in the future to be able to take that pump station offline. The elevated tank will come down, the pump station will be demolished, and then all those wells will go to North 40 because there was a need for, there was some storage there that wasn't being utilized, and that high tank really, and pump station being one of the older ones, and that originally that high tank was meant to serve kind of the same purpose that the Llano high tank does now, and then it had to be revamped into kind of a pumping station. But long story short is it's really past its useful life, and it's not really a vital part of the system, and so we felt it better to reroute those wells over to North 40 where they were needed, and it will make the system better as a whole. Also looking at the 7th Street project and drainage project that's upcoming, so we are in design of that to be able to take advantage of that project. We know we're going to have some things that are going to be in conflict with the storm drain, so we'll need to move some things, but we're also going to take this opportunity to upsize some lines, replace some aged lines, and then make sure that everything that is within that new roadway will also be new and upsized in order to help improve fire flow for that downtown area, especially as we start to see it being revitalized as we have in the past several years. So looking at that one, and then also US 6084, I believe it's the east project they're constructing now. We had actually been in design for both the middle and the east section because we anticipated they would both be built at the same time, which we later learned that they're only going to do the east section now. But either way, we're doing the same thing there. We are, prepping to be able to move what needs to be moved and also upsize lines and get infrastructure back to new within that work area. So working on that. And then, really just still engaged in our lease well program. So looking for new water sources, new groundwater sources. We currently have one that's under construction now that we anticipate is going to bring an additional 350 to 400 gallons a minute into the system. Working on some additional ones over at Hillcrest Park. And then we've got about 6 more that are, in queue. So, and then always looking for additional ones. So, I would say if you guys are aware of any landowners that have a well on it with some, water rights that maybe they aren't using it, feel free to send them our way and see if they would be a good fit for that program. And then with April being Water Conservation Month, I would just say that, we're engaged in our conservation efforts. During the summer months, we kind of do additional things like radio ads. We put inserts in our bills, a lot of direct mailers, and just media in relations to conservation. Of course, it's an everyday thing for us, so we're always doing things to promote conservation. And I talked a little bit about it at the commission meeting, but we have our rebate programs that are still available for toilets, washing machines, landscape. And the newest one that we added was our water harvesting barrels. We did in 2021, we had 28 applications that we were able to process for rebates. The majority of those, I think 13 of them were toilets, 12 were landscape, and then the remainder were the clothes washers and rain catch barrels. So we're still seeing that toilets are kind of like the one that most people take advantage of, but all those rebates are still available, and all that information can be found on our website, as well as a lot of other conservation tips for how to save water both inside and outside your home. So again, and then lastly, I would say that today will be our first day open back up to the public. So we had closed our lobby back, due to the pandemic, and so we took a very cautious approach on how we wanted to bring our staff back fully into the office, and then how we wanted to approach opening up. But we feel like now's a good time to do it. So we did modify our hours a little bit. We're going to be open from 9 to 3 Monday through Friday, which is a little shorter than what we had kind of pre-pandemic. But all in all, I think it's going to be pretty welcome news to everyone out there that we're going to be open back up. And then with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mark?
Thank you for being open, because our office gets a lot of calls of why you're not open. So it's good news. So we'll make sure we'll put that on our EPCOG Facebook page as well, that you'll be open Monday through Friday, 9 to 3?
Correct, yes.
Okay, your window, drive-up window?
Drive-up window will be open. We're like I said, we're gonna open it back up. I will say that as we kind of judge what the traffic levels look like, we could modify those hours, reduce them even more. But if it looks like we need to maintain that level of hours being open, we will. And really the reason for the modified hours are there are a lot of customer service functions that kind of happen on the back end, so taking payments and processing those requests that come in are one part of it, but there are a lot of back office things and activities that have to get completed as well. So we have to allow our staff time to do those functions. So, but again, I think it's been a long time coming, and I know we have received multiple requests and complaints. So, just
Thank you.
Glad to see it happening.
Mark, one other thing, any more activity to the south? I know you ran that line so the
Yeah.
county could hook up.
Yeah,
at,
so, when we first ran that line out there, of course, we were able to connect some of the customers out in the county. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and we understand that. we still receive some requests and different people coming to us and saying, hey, you know, I'm looking at buying a property, where's the nearest water line? And so we work with those individuals to let them know, you know, this is what it could possibly take in order to get water to that property, and that'll kind of help them decide whether or not they want to, you know, move forward. But again, it's, you know, we understand the need, and, you know, we did what we could do to kind of make it more available, but there is more work that needs to be done, and it's really just a matter of how it gets done.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, Mark, thank you, appreciate it.
All right,
And EPCOR's always been a good partner with the city of Clovis on continuing to provide sustainable water and especially on conservation. You all work right along with us on trying to make sure that we provide information and give handouts and to the public. So thank you for what you do. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, and we, you know, of course, we appreciate the partnership too, and always the cooperation that we have with the city, with the authority. Enjoy working with Orlando. Look forward to working with him and the city for many years to come as we continue to get this thing built out. Because, you know, water is a regional thing, and that's the way that we look at it. So,
Definitely. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Okay, move down for the good of the order. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss?
Mr. Chairman, we're, as I stated earlier, we're planning an Economic Development Week. Will be May the 9th to the 13th. We're planning activities for that week. I said we're Eastern Plains Council of Governments in partnership with the city of Clovis, with Curry County, with Main Street, and the Department of Workforce Solutions. On May the 10th, Deputy Secretary of the Economic Development Department, Mr. John Clark, will be attending. We'll be in Clovis for an Economic Development Roundtable. We've confirmed that. We have invited the Secretary, Alicia Keys, the Secretary of Economic Development. We've also invited the Tourism Secretary, Jen Shearer, to attend as well. And as I said, the governor has been invited also to have some activities for that week. And we're focusing on May 12th for the governor. We hope that she will be able to make it. The city of Clovis will be doing a proclamation for Economic Development Week on May the 5th, and the county will be doing a proclamation at their next, when's your next meeting? Tomorrow. Tomorrow, okay. He didn't tell me tomorrow, but we'll be checking on that. Lance Pyle will be doing a proclamation for us for Economic Development Week in the county.
Great. Good
So
information.
we'll be announcing a lot of that information to the media and social posting as well.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, I'll just mention that I know we haven't had a lot of action items within this committee for quite a while. We have a lot going on, but the largest thing about the Water Policy Advisory Committee is I want to make sure that you all continue to stay informed as to what we're doing, our future plans, and what's going on within the city of Clovis and the county as well. So, and the authority and EPCOR, of course. So, you know, even though we cancel a few meetings here and there, you know, we want to make sure that you all are involved and updated on everything that's going on within our community. So, just want to throw that in.
Are these meetings are set monthly, is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Since, Mr. Chairman, if I could propose that, you know, of course, the call of the chair, you have that authority, but maybe meet every other month?
We possibly could. We can discuss that and you know, what's the rest of the committee feel about that?
Instead of meeting monthly.
Anybody have any comments on it?
Well, I mean, as many meetings have been canceled lately.
Yeah.
You're not at an every other month schedule now.
No, not really.
Because we haven't met since August, and
Right.
Yeah.
and with the progress that's going on with the Water Authority, we're going into the summer already, probably not a lot of reporting happening. Maybe perhaps once a quarter.
Yeah, we could definitely look at that.
I don't know, Mr. Holwald, what's your thought?
I mean, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I mean, obviously, it's up to the board's discretion. Whatever we decide on, we'll obviously take it back to the city commission for approval. This board, from my understanding, because I wasn't here, but when the intent of the board obviously was looking at policies. And so at the time, we were looking at our policies in regards to how water was being used throughout the community. So we actually do have policies in place that we adopted several years ago, reviewed them several years ago, and they've worked. I mean, we stay in communication with EPCOR, and based off of water availability is when it kicks off certain restrictions that we could apply throughout the community. But actually, we haven't ever had to kick in some of those, and so that's been fantastic. But I mean, if y'all want to meet quarterly, we certainly can do that. I know when you look at how often we do meet, it does seem like we're meeting more quarterly. But it is, and honestly, as I sit here and think about the reuse project, as that starts to wind down, and from what I may be reporting to this board, would just be updates probably on usage, and because our irrigation season, similar with EPCOR, ebbs and flows with the season, and so, but Orlando may have more reporting to do once they get into construction and start out and putting those allocated funds to use. But I think quarterly is probably plenty, to be honest with you, in my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, like, for example, the Land Trust Water Conservancy Committee has been put together. I don't think we've heard from them since they've been put together that I know, that I'm aware of.
We have not.
Is perhaps on the next committee meeting, we'll have the chairman of that committee kind of give us an update of what's going on. But I would recommend quarterly meetings at this time, and if we have to have a meeting, the call of the chair.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be fine with me. I don't have a problem with that at all, and I think quarterly meetings would, be justifiable. I don't see why they wouldn't. And at the same time, if we just, if we're gonna do the quarterly meetings, which I think is fine, if any of you have thoughts as to what you'd like to see on the agenda prior to that meeting, please contact me or this, city management and city staff, and let us know what you'd like to see on the agenda as well, so we can make sure we get that on the agenda for that meeting. Okay, so we'll present that to the city commission to change that over to quarterly meetings and go from there. Okay? Okay. The only other thing we got is I'll introduce one of our new commissioners, David Bryant. No relation. But I know he's interested in water, and give him an opportunity to make a couple of comments if you'd like to. If not, then that's fine. Okay? Just want to make sure we introduce him. All right, next meeting then will be set on a quarterly meeting probably.
To be determined.
Yes, to be determined, exactly. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.